So you see the 5 DSD photos. So this is why we talk about overlapping. And it's a very important concept for you to understand. Even though you may never ever have to work on the computer yourself doing it, it's very important to understand the importance of overlapping files. As you're going to see in digital dentistry and copy-paste dentistry, why can we do one thing follow the other? How can we make the final look like the provisional, that looks like the markup, that looks like the design? Because we can overlap files. But what is the important thing that you need to know? That to overlap files, the 2 files that you want to link, they have to have enough similar information for the software to overlap. So if I scan a full upper arch, all the teeth, and then I prep all the teeth, and I scan all the preps, how the lab can overlap the file of the teeth before prepping and all the teeth prepping? If you prep all the teeth, you need to rely on the gum. You need to rely on the palate. That's where the software is gonna, the tuberosity. That's where the software is gonna find the information. If you didn't prep all the teeth and you left a couple unprepped, we're gonna use those teeth as a reference. Now, if you didn't prep all the teeth, but you changed the occlusal surface because you did endo treatments on these teeth, we cannot overlap anymore. Then we need to rely on the palate. Now, if you did a surgery, a grafting surgery, and you did a surgery on the palate, and the palate is kind of distorted, not good. You understand my point? If you send me a picture and you send me a STL file, both need to have enough information for me to overlap the picture to the file. If you have a case today, and after 5 years you scan this patient again and you want to compare, you need to have enough information in the mouth to overlap these files. That's why it's so important to have a very, very good palate scanning. The palatal area is one of the main areas that will not change down the road. It's like their fingerprint of the mouth. So if you have a nice scan of the palate and a nice scan of the vestibule, you know, on the pre-op is very important. We get many times those pre-op scans like the alginate impression. It was the same problem with alginate, huh? In the lab, we used to have that problem. Alginate impressions that are almost not even getting the cervical of the teeth. You know what I'm talking? That don't even get the gum properly, that don't get the vestibule. And then you have those amazing alginate impressions that are getting everything. This is what we need with the scans. We need to grab all the information. So make sure that you scan the gum, you go high, you scan the tuberosity, you scan the palatal side. So here we go. Facial picture, bite registration scan, upper scan, lower scan. So what is the first thing we do? We overlap. We overlap the upper old denture to the picture of the face. This is the first step we do. And we design the upper against the face. So we have a beautiful design against the face. So there we go. Now that we have a beautiful design against the face, we can compare the beautiful design against the face and the existing denture. So for example, here, I can tell you that her denture, the front teeth are flaring out, and the posterior teeth are too narrow. This is what the ideal design is showing me. Now we continue. This is the beauty of overlapping. Because we scan the internal part of the denture, and we scan the ridge, that means that this can be overlapped to this. What does this mean? If the ridge is overlapped to the old denture, and the design is overlapped to the face, and the design is overlapped to the old denture, what do we have here? The facially driven design overlapped to the ridge. How beautiful is that? Now we can compare where we want to be with the existing ridge. Now there's more. Because the bite was there, And since the bite was there with the old denture, and the old denture has the ridge, if I take the denture out, now I have what? The upper ridge and the lower arch in the new vertical dimension. How great is that? With the ideal design already in place. We continue. Now that we have the lower arch with the ridge in the new vertical dimension and the ideal design with the face, now I can wax up the lower against the ideal upper in the new vertical dimension. Continue. What do we have left? The bone. Since the bone is overlapped to the denture, that is overlapped to the ridge, that is overlapped to the design, that is in harmony with the face, what do you have now? Ideal design with the bone. Facially driven design and the bone. It looks obvious, but still today, the huge majority of implant digital planning are not done taking advantage of this. I'm going to repeat. The huge majority of implant digital planning is not done taking advantage of this obvious and easy concept that I'm showing to you right here, right now. People are putting teeth in the mouth according to whatever and then planning the implants towards them. It makes no sense. So we continue. We have the bone on the lower. Since it's overlapped to the model, now we can compare the design with the bone on the lower, and we can plan the single implant on the molar of the lower, and we can plan, of course, the new occlusal plane, the Spee curve, the Wilson curve, and the relationship between the upper and lower functional design, and then we can plan the implants. The implants are now planned according to the facially driven design compared to the bone, and if we have limitations and challenges, we can consciously move things around to facilitate the surgery. And this is what we do. When final surgery is planned, all the devices can be manufactured, surgery can be done, everything can be picked in the mouth, and in one shot, we can deliver an upper full implant bridge on the new design, and we can deliver lower composites on the natural teeth and the single implant that are perfectly integrating with the upper design. So what we did for her on the lower was direct composite, copy paste from the lower design, plus the single implant, but in harmony with the upper, in harmony with the new upper. So this is why what you see here, this is the cool part here. This is why we are sending to the dentist the lower design. This is the ideal design on the lower that is perfectly biting against this. And what do you see here? It's a guide to do the direct composite, copying exactly this. And then we have the implant guide for the single molar right here. Now, this guide fits into the lower teeth without composite. That's why the cases that we send to our doctors, they have a script so the doctor doesn't get lost on the sequence, because if you mess up the sequence, things don't fit. So what is step number 1? Place the lower single implant. Why? Because the guide fits the natural dentition before the composite. Step number 2. Now this guide fits the provisional of the implant. You see the puzzle here? This, if we would have done this fitting the ridge, it wouldn't fit. So this fits the provisional. That actually serves as an anchor to this guide. And then we can do the direct composite over here. So now we have the final lower fixed. And after the lower, we will capture the upper denture over the implants that bites perfectly with the composite on the lowers. Now, your digital lab needs to play the sequence, right? You and your lab. So you see, step number 1, composite, then you capture the implant first, then the composite on the lowers to level the lower arch, and then you do the implants on the upper, exactly like the digital 3D design. And in one session, the patient has a lower arch completely new and the new upper prosthesis. When osseointegration happens, the implants are scanned, on this case using the PIC system to scan the implants. So we have the upper jaw with the scans, and now back to the lab. So after several months, back to the lab. What we want to do here, we want to take the scan. This is the existing immediate loading prosthesis. So we take the scan of the implants. First thing we want to check is that if the patient is happy with the immediate loading prosthesis, because now we have the chance to copy exactly the immediate loading prosthesis or to make small changes. So since she had a couple of comments on the immediate loading prosthesis, we added a new wax up starting almost identical to the existing prosthesis with slight modifications to make her even more happy with the final prosthesis. So in blue is the scanning of the immediate loading prosthesis, and in white is the new design of the final prosthesis. Copy paste. Okay? And then the file that goes for the milling. Two things we can do, as I said, we can do a printed prototype to check the passive fit, to check the bite, to check the aesthetics, basically, okay, the vertical dimension. And we can also produce a passive fit test. If you're not completely comfortable with scanning several implants, if you're not 100% sure of the quality of the scan, before milling the complex, expensive full bridge, we can mill a passive fit test. Okay? Nowadays, we can even print these passive fit tests in a rigid resin. But this is just to show how the complete digital workflow is actually working in terms of precision and passive fit. Especially when you work with systems like the PIC system, that is an amazing system for scanning multiple implants, okay? Look at the fit. So the doctor is completely confident, so we can go ahead and we can mill, and this is the prototype, the test drive, the printed prototype to test. This is very useful, okay? I strongly suggest you to also always test a printed prototype on these big cases. And the final test, final bridge, milling, adding the pink, monolithic, natural algorithms, smile donator. Look at the composites on the bottom. So this is after, almost a year with the composites on the bottom. So the composites on the bottom, they did their job of creating this bite, this provisional transitional phase, and you can now move the lowers into ceramics as well if you wish. Or new composites, as you wish. And this is the final smile. So this is just a quick comparison. Look how we used to do these cases. I have to tell you, working with full implant arches without digital was challenging. And, all the doctors that were doing a great job with full implant arches without technology, I have to give huge credits, because so many things could go wrong, and they usually did go wrong, and we had to redo and cut and splint and manufacture again. And how many cases we ended up screwing, even though we knew it was not ideal, and the passive fit was not ideal, and the bridge was kind of screwed into the implants, and you could hear the ceramics like right? Oh, as you were screwing the last implant, and it was crazy, really crazy. And how many steps we had to go all the way to final deliver. And nowadays, with digital, first of all, you just skip. There's certain analog procedures that could bring so much error that they just don't exist anymore. The step just doesn't exist anymore. And all the others are much better controlled. All the others are much better controlled. So this is just a quick comparison, and a big shout out to all the doctors that were doing this without technology. Congratulations, you guys were doing magic. Honestly, magic. Not easy. So it's beautiful to work with digital on these cases. Okay, a couple of things that digital will not actually work, I already mentioned. Anatomical edentulous impressions with arches with little or no keratinized tissue. You need to still go into a conventional anatomical impression, but you can save the models, you can scan the impression and go straight into digital, back into digital. Finding the vertical dimension and the CR registration, you need to have the traditional know-how of how to find that position. If the patient doesn't have an old prosthesis, you need to do the wax trim.